I'm Priscilla Barrera with the Investing News Network, and here with me today is Ken Hoffman, basic materials expert at McKinsey. Ken, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so we're here at the Lithium Supply Markets Conference in Chile. What have been some of the main trends you've seen in the battery metal space this year?
Well, this year's been very interesting for the battery metal space. One, we've seen pretty much collapse of the lithium and cobalt prices over the past year. However, we've seen phenomenal demand for the product. In the first 4.5 months of this year in China, demand's up over 60%. We continue to see very strong demand in the United States for Model 3 with Tesla. But really watch for 2020 when we see a massive new amount of models hit the European market. And I think this time next year we'll be talking all about European demand and all that new European product hitting the market.
All right, and I wanted to ask about your EV forecasts. What are you seeing in terms of electric vehicle demand? I know that you mentioned this morning the forecasts have been changing every 6 months to the upside, so can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, we're looking by 2030, we see between our base case analysis is about 18% of vehicles being sold globally being EVs, around 27% in our upside analysis. However, we continue to change the mix much more towards fully battery electric vehicles and less towards the plug-in hybrids. As we see the ability of range becoming better and better in those battery cars, there's less and less of a need for the plug-in hybrids.
All right, and one of the things that we will be talking about here at the conference is about future mobility and shared mobility. How does that impact your forecast for EVs, and in terms of raw materials, how does it impact demand?
It's very interesting. When you talk to the automotive companies, they don't bucket them differently. They have a car that must have electric vehicle, fully autonomous with a lot of technological features, and they sort of don't separate the two. One, it actually makes the car work a lot better from a battery rather than using an internal combustion engine to generate electricity to run all this stuff. So it's a lot easier for them, and so they put them all together. And that's something they're all, one of the reasons you see so many joint ventures is this is a lot. So a lot of the car companies are sort of saying, I'll leave the battery tech to the suppliers. They're really focused on the driverless car and the technology in the car, and they're trying to figure out, how do I sell this all? So you're starting to see more like monthly services subscriptions. Like, hey, I'll download the subscription, I'll get better technology, and I'll get more range because they figured out a better way to manipulate the packs. So all of them come together. Again, I think range is going to be the important part, because what they're realizing for the regular consumer, I don't want to plug in my car every night. And if I'm a city, I can't have every car in the city being plugged in every night. So we call it the quest for the 1,000-kilometer car, and we think that's going to be the big push from the automotive industry, is who's going to be the first one out of the gate to have a 1,000-kilometer car. Tesla claims they will have one late this year. We'll see if they're right, but that is something I think will really excite consumers who have a lot of range anxiety.
All right, and let's just talk specifically about lithium-ion batteries. One of the things that was a main talking point last year was this NCM 811 higher nickel cathodes. What are you seeing in terms of actual adoption? What are the challenges and benefits?
Sure, the most publicized 811 car, it's on the market today in China. It's a joint venture between GAC Automotive and NIO. It's called the Lithium-ion S. It gets highway range 600 kilometers. It supposedly charges pretty fast. And so that's something that I think is really, really interesting. Again, watch consumer adoption, because if we look at the longest range cars in the market, they've sold very well. So the Hyundai Kona EV is a battery that's really sold very, very well. Obviously, Tesla has sold very, very well. And as the automotive companies realize range matters so much to their customers, they're really going to plow as quickly as they possibly can into this. Notably, Volkswagen said their next gigafactory in Europe will have a 90505 battery chemistry. So everyone's pushing to the high nickel battery chemistry.
Right, so high nickel means less cobalt. How are you seeing demand for these two metals? Are they going in different directions?
Yeah, there's a great paper on the internet by Professor Don, who really helped develop Tesla's battery, where they took cobalt out of a lot of battery chemistries, and what they found, much to their surprise, was that it didn't really change battery performance. And so the pursuit of a cobalt-less battery, which I know Elon Musk and a lot of other people have called for, I think they actually knew something. And so I think the automotive industry would love to have a cobalt-less battery. It's a very small market, the cobalt market. Obviously, we've seen prices are very volatile. So if they can take that price risk out of there and just go to a nickel battery, a lithium battery, that would really be exciting. So watch for a lot of trends and a lot more information of that hit later this year.
All right, and in terms of nickel, what are the main challenges in that market right now? What are you seeing?
The main challenge is the industry is being really dumb. The major producers of metals don't see any incentive to look for new nickel mines. They're looking at a price today, which is relatively low, around $12,000. However, one of the things we try to look as a canary in the coal mine is how much nickel's on the exchanges. And if we look at the exchanges, the London Metal Exchange and the Shanghai Exchange, which are called SHFE, those combined inventories of nickel, which is the pure grade nickel you'd love to use in batteries, has dropped from around 550,000 metric tons 24 months ago to 170,000 metric tons today. If that continues to drop and say it gets around 100,000 metric tons, which is about 3 weeks world supply, I think the markets will get really, really nervous. And I just came from a nickel conference in Amsterdam last week, and what they said is the nickel price is going to be 12,000 and then it's going to be 20,000. There's going to be like very little room in between if the tightness occurs. And so that's one thing we're watching super close.
All right, and in terms of battery innovations, which is going to be another big topic here at the conference, what are you seeing as, the next big thing in terms of battery technology?
Well, everyone here is going to be talking about solid-state batteries. It's solid state, solid state, solid state. Why? Your solid-state battery doesn't have a flammable electrolyte, so no more YouTube videos of cars going on fire. A solid-state battery no longer has a graphite anode. It has a lithium metal anode, so it's about half the size, and yet it's much more efficient. Because when you have a lithium anode and lithium in the cathode, the lithium wants to take the path of least resistance, and lithium to lithium is the best way. Interestingly enough, 2 days ago, Toyota claimed two things. One, they pulled their 2030 forecast for EV sales up to 2025, 5 years sooner, and they said they would have a solid-state battery on the market next year. So a lot of people want to know, what the heck is Toyota doing, and is this going to be real? Because I would think if you polled everyone at this conference and you said there would be a solid-state battery on the market next year, 99.9% of the people in that room would say no. I'll be the one to be positive and hopeful because the world needs a solid-state battery, and I really think a solid-state battery, it changes everything. It ends the world's reliance on carbon, and I think that's what a lot of people want to see, so I hope Toyota has done something really cool.
All right, and with all this information we receive all the time, with new technologies, innovations, how can the investors that are watching us today position themselves to benefit from this market and also better understand the market, not get through all the noise? Let's put it that way.
There's an awful lot of noise. It's very difficult for investors. I think what people need to look at is to really try to guess where this is going. In terms of a mining industry, I think there's two areas that are really exciting. One is nickel and one is lithium. I think if you look at those two markets, all the batteries that we foresee over the next decade have those two elements in abundance. So those are two really interesting areas to look at. In terms of the technologies, once we get away from there, it's very, very hard. Because you have over 100 companies trying to develop a solid-state battery. One or two may be successful, the other 98 are going to be a complete washout. So that's going to be much more difficult. Look for companies that do battery management systems, because what is the beauty of Tesla? Tesla doesn't make a battery. Tesla makes the battery management system, and that's really, really exciting stuff. So all the other car companies are trying to find who makes the best battery management system. Be aware of technological change. I could have a great graphite project, but if solid state is true and that solid state battery uses lithium, it's going to be detrimental for them. So really watch, quickly keep yourself in tune. I always, every Friday night, like to look at EV battery news and sort of see what's going on into the market, because things are changing very, very fast. These aren't cars anymore, they're iPhones. They're going to change really, really rapidly. There will be tremendous fortunes to be made, but most of the new industries won't do very well. So really watch it.
All right, Ken, my last question for you today. What other factors should investors pay attention to in 2019? I know you mentioned Toyota and their news. Anything else they should be paying attention to?
Really search solid state. Again, solid state is going to be the area, because we don't know what it's going to exactly look like. Will it be a ceramic form of solid state? Will it be a glass? Will it be a silicon? We don't know. Watch that area, because that's going to be really exciting, because Where your battery today is many, many parts. It's your cathode with all those metals, cobalt, nickel, lithium, manganese, and lithium, of course. But there's a lot of other parts of a battery, the separators, the electrolytes, etc. What's going to replace that? Because whatever replaces that is going to be a great benefit to whoever does so. So watch those areas. And I do think you'll see a big consolidation in the industry. There are hundreds and hundreds of players. We've seen in the automotive industry that will narrow down tremendously, and try to figure out who's going to be those consolidators in the industry.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Right. Once again, I'm Priscilla Barrera with the Investing News Network, and here with me today is Ken Hoffman, basic material expert at McKinsey.